Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Augustus the Animator, and in today's tutorial I'll be teaching you how to do this hit impact, explosion, burst, point of emphasis, whatever you would like to use it for, as you can see in this first example and in this spring video that I did for Instagram a little while back. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much, and let's get to it. Alright, in our composition, any size you'd like, the longer that it is, the more real estate you'll have to work with in terms of your circle, the circle of the explosion, which I'll explain in a minute. But we're going to start by just going top to bottom, making lines. And actually we'll do one and add a trim paths to it. Add trim paths. And let's crank the end to 0, keyframe it, shift command right key maybe once just to go 10 frames over, crank that all the way up to 100, and then we're actually going to do the same for start. Not quite the same. We're going to keyframe it at 0 a frame after we keyframe our end, go a frame after on the other side as well, crank it so that it disappears. And that doesn't look super good. But if we select these, easy ease them with F9, it'll look a little nicer. I'm going to go into the graph editor, grab both these handles and just crank them to the left. We'll say at about 87% influence. Looks good. I'm going to shift these start keyframes over one more so that the line has a bit more time on screen. Perfect. Okay, and now that we have one and with these keyframes set up, now we're going to duplicate it. So just hit Command D, and I'm going to shift it over, and we're just going to start varying the width and the length of these. So let's crank this guy up a little bit, hit the G key for the pen tool, maybe make this shorter. When you adjust length, make sure you go from bottom to top, but leave the top of the line still at the top of your composition, because then the explosion will still start from the center. And I'll explain that in a minute, but we're going to do that. Let's duplicate this bad boy, move him over, change the color to something a little more orange, maybe like that. Obviously do whatever you'd like. And then we're going to do a few more. Let's see, some yellow maybe. Make that nice and big. And feel free to have fun with this, especially because it doesn't need to look like a fire explosion or any kind of thing like that. It can just be a burst, it can be an impact, it can be anything that you want it to be, which is great. And it's totally fine to have things overlap like this. In fact, it is preferred. What I'm actually going to do on some of these, maybe this guy right here, duplicate him, make him kind of a brighter version of that same color. Just like that. And then crank down the stroke so that it's inside of it. Grab that, make it a touch shorter. Bam. Okay. And then what I'm actually going to do, what I should have done earlier, select all these, hit the U key, and select all these keyframes on the right, and just Alt left arrow them over a bit, because this is going to be pretty fast. We don't want to linger on this too long. It's a high energy situation. Let's do one more even. That doesn't look too bad. Great. Now let's see. Okay, so that is really the hard work that you have to do, which is super fun. Let's do layer, new, adjustment layer, and this is where the magic happens. Do effect, or don't do effect. Just type in the help polar to bring up polar coordinates, and this is what's going to make the magic happen. Switch the type of conversion to rectangle to polar. Crank up your interpolation. You don't have to know what it means because I don't either. And bam, this whole thing is now suddenly a circle instead of a rectangle. So if we play it, easy peasy. And what this does you know, you could obviously have lines come out from the center and just go here and have it look similar, but, you know, it's not going to have the varying width right here. And honestly, this is like so easy to do. Bam. I'm going to edit these while this is on, while this effect is still on. So if I grab our first one that we made, you can see the sort of skeleton of this, and obviously it's looks different because of the polar coordinates right now, but if we grab it and move it just like we would normally, you can see what polar coordinates does. The x position relates to where it's coming out of the circle, basically. I'm sure there's a more eloquent way to say that, but you can see what it does. And then if we just make this guy shorter, you can see that that adjusts how far out from the center it comes. And so that's why we wanted to vary these a little bit, just to have some variation within this blast so it's not a perfect circle. And what I might do is actually, sort of in real time, just crank these down to have varying levels, even at like a more varied level of shapes and colors and things. Bam. We're going to pretend that's exactly how we want that to look. And then we're going to make another adjustment layer, which we're going to put under this first one. Let's call this polar coordinates. And then layer, new adjustment layer. And I'm not going to find it. I'm going to type in roughen, because we want roughen edges. Alright, with polar coordinates shut off for now, and on our roughen edges effect layer, we are going to mess around with all of these settings. Honestly, the best way to learn them is just to mess around, which is what I did. The first thing we're going to do, let's see, crank up this border a little bit so we can see the effect a little bit more. And now with stretch width or height, if we crank this to the left, it's going to be some more vertical displacement instead of horizontal, which is the same direction that we're sort of shooting here. And let's see, scale, crank up a little bit. These are just ballpark numbers. Let's crank up border even more, make this more dramatic. Let's see. And kind of mess with these until it fits the way that you want it to fit. You'll notice this guy in here is not being affected by this because this adjustment layer is affecting everything below it, and it's sort of considering any object together as one object, and so it's not affecting this edge, it's affecting the combined edge of it. So you can either, find him, which I think I did, oh, good job, and move him out, or you can apply this effect, copy, and paste, which was too much because it made it just disappear, but you can copy and paste it to individual ones if you want them to show up like that, which you could do to each one individually, but this is a bit of a time saver if you do it like that. And yeah. And while we're at it, let's actually I'm going to duplicate this guy, do a brighter version of the color. Great. Crank that stroke way down, grab the end of it, move him up, and then I think if I Command V, that effect is still copied. It's going to paste on there, and there we have some more variation within that. Alright. Oops. So now if we turn our polar coordinates layer back on, it's a circle again. And I'm actually going to... This is feeling like it holds on, or these lines are coming from the center for a bit too long for me. So I am going to hit tilde over this to make this much bigger, and make all of these start keyframes happen one frame sooner so that that line starts to disappear on this end quicker. There we go, look at that. And that is it. There isn't any more to it. Very simple, very quick, not much frame by frame manipulation. You could do tons of different variations with this if you move things around and space them. And I hope that you find it useful. If you liked this video, like, subscribe, comment, because it helps me. It's so great. And I hope that you learned something. Have a great day.